Hey everybody, welcome back. Part three of the 24-hour build series, and we're getting ready to begin assembly. You can see here we got our frame hanging in the booth, nice gloss black paint, 15-minute fast clear, which we gave about 45 minutes to, and got the tank ready and waiting. At this point, the rear fender was not painted yet. We did the frame first so that we could start assembly, and then Tony's going to jump on the fender as soon as we pull the frame here out of the booth.
Take the frame out first. Kind of just gingerly hold it.
Six hours to go.
You'll see that car and show. Give me slightly gentle.
$6 to go and counting.
So we got Juan doing his little inspection here. Not sure what he's doing. He was supposed to be videoing, but instead he's checking out the bike. And now we got Mike doing his inspection, working on making some spark plug wires. Got the coils mounted on the frame and the motor in first.
John. That's his truck.
Oh shit, John, you got your keys in your.
So I had set off the alarm in my truck with my keys. Anyway, Matt and Matt and Mike are getting plug wires made up and routed on the frame. Mounted the coils on the rear of the engine. I was over at the plasma table cutting a bracket to make the headlight mount. Put it in the press brake, got it fit up there, made sure it was how we like it. Everybody checked it out. We got the okay. It looks good. And I passed it off to Tony to get it painted. At this point, I want to say it's around 5 o'clock in the morning. Nicole showed up with coffee for everybody. Who's a coffee drinker? I am not. I was probably on my 8th monster of the night. But Mike, or not Mike, I think Frank and Matt and Juan, they were all dying for some coffee. So Nicole, on her way in, she came in early that day, brought the coffees to the boys to try and rejuvenate them, get a little life left in them for this last push on the assembly of the bike. I'm not sure how well it worked, but we kept on pushing. So this fender had been painted just before we started to install it. I believe we let it sit for about 30 minutes. So you can see we're handling it pretty gingerly, but we were ready for it. And so we went ahead and put it on. Luckily, no scratches or finger marks were left in it. So this fast 15-minute clear really did its job for us on this project. We absolutely could not have done this without that fast clear. It just would have taken too long to get the things painted. So threw the middle and bottom fender mounts in. We got this really cool flat bar stainless steel sissy bar we made up earlier in the night. Frank got it all TIG welded up on the bench. Mike used our surface conditioning tool to get it cleaned up and really slick brush finished. We went with all brush finishes on all the stainless and aluminum on this project because we did not have time to polish them. So, little tweak on that as it sucked in a little bit when we welded it, and we're ready to install. We'll put these bottom bolts in here, and then we're going to carefully swivel it over the top of the fender, avoiding contact with the fender, obviously, so we don't scratch it, which also amazingly went a lot smoother than it could have, considering how tired we all were at this time. So once we got the fender in, it was time to get the rear wheel and rear brake setup going. Um, Super pumped on this whole setup. If you guys have been watching along, I made these wheels basically from scratch. Used a Buell perimeter rotor, and just love how it looks. It's really super cool. We also use the brake caliper from the Buell as it's set up for perimeter mounting and just made for a little bit easier deal. So um, while trying to get the wheel fit, something happened. We had the wheel spaced, and for some reason, maybe on the final welding of the frame or whatever, um, we lost a dimension somewhere. So I had to trim the rear wheel spacer. Not too big of a deal, honestly. We had plenty of room in there. Um, just kind of a weird thing that happened. You know, the frame was fully welded in the jig, and it was cool when we took it out. So anyway, no big deal. Jumped back over to the lathe, got that trimmed off. I want to say it was like an 1/8 inch or something, and everything slipped in. Made sure our chain alignment was right, which was good. So something obviously pulled on the right hand side of the frame ever so slightly, but not a big deal all in all. And we got that worked out and continued on with what we were doing. Thank you, bro. So back from the lathe with our wheel spacers, getting the wheel, brake caliper hanger, spacers, and all that in, and now we're going to slide the axle through. Got a little stuck on the inner wheel spacer, so nothing a little dead blow hammer action can't solve. And we'll get this axle knocked in and send it home.
Thank you so much.
So go ahead and get the chain installed now that we got the wheel in. Mike's getting the brake stay rod put on, and we really got lucky on this deal. I'm not exactly sure how I decided on what length chain to order, but I ordered a longer chain than normal, and we had the exact number of links needed, so that worked out really well. Now that the fender is in, we're knocking the seat pivot bushings in. We're going to go ahead and get this nice lapel seat mounted. This has become my favorite seat to use on nearly everything these days. It's got a little bit of a strange shape to it, but man, it is like the most comfortable rigid chopper seat I've ever ridden. So, I've been using it on a bunch of bikes lately. If you happen to notice that, that is why. If you've been on the fence about buying one, get off the fence and buy it. You will not regret it. So Matt got started getting the rear exhaust on, and Tony brought the tank over. Made up a couple little aluminum coped washers, and they're just going on top of the regular mounting tabs. Just a little trim piece. Didn't get to do a lot of the super detail stuff on this bike that we normally like to do, simply because of the time constraints, but I wanted to make sure we did a few of them, so that was one of the ones I used on the tank here. So Tony's getting that held in place for me while I get the bolts in and get it all bolted up.
There it is. Yeah. Let's do it. It was a. What's that?
I said slipping was worse. You should have just stayed up.
Oh, were you,
No, no.
Problem you're running into that 600 Kelvins. That can go in a little more.
So everybody's using the last bits of energy they got, plugging away on the assembly here. Just getting exhaust on. Matt's running fuel line and fuel line splitters. Just plugging away at all the little stuff that we can, trying to get this thing done. We did forget to make handlebars earlier in the night. I'm not sure how that happened, but you don't think the most clearly in hours, 12, 14, 18, what have you. So anyway, we did. We were planning to make the bars out of stainless anyway, so we figured we'd just do them when we were almost close to done. There you see a nice, beautiful shot of the stainless steel exhaust Mike and Frank worked on really hard. I'm getting the headlight mounted up. Used a nice, cool amber bulb in there. So just lots of assembly, lots of little pieces and details to do. So you're getting close when the lift goes down. So anyway, dropping the lift down so we can sit on the bike here and figure out our handlebar positioning. So we're plugging away on our handlebar fab here. Woke Frank up, needed some more TIG welding done, and he is the man at that. He wasn't really sleeping, but anyway, um, just went with a really simple kind of pull back drag bar, angled back a little bit, straight stainless tubing with a little cross brace in between the two to tie them together. Nothing overly complicated, real simple bar and comfortable kind of bar I like to have. Fit me nice, and since it's my bike, that was kind of the idea. So we went ahead and got these all tacked up. Um, Once we got everything tacked up nice and strong, pulled them off. Frank welded them up on the top of the welder because we didn't want to have to relocate the welder back to the welding table again. It's a lot of back and forth with that through the night as it was. So um, Frank was happy to weld them wherever. He said he'd weld them off the floor if he had to. So anyway, we did that. While I was sitting on the bike, I realized at some point, not at some point, but earlier in the night when I put the carburetors on, I actually put them in backwards. The throttle linkage was on the wrong side of the carbs. So that was not any big deal, except for Matt had already run and routed his fuel line, so I screwed that up. And we flipped the carburetors back around, so once Frank got the bars welded, we could start with throttle assembly and installing throttle cable and all that good stuff. So Mike here seemed to get the best second win. He's plugging away on lots of little details. I started making up the throttle cable. Mike's working on getting some velocity stacks installed on the carburetor. We luckily found these on another bike in the storage warehouse because the plan we originally had didn't really work out time wise. So we found those, slapping them on there. I'm working on throttle cable. Once we got the throttle cable situated, went to the clutch cable, which is kind of where our trouble began. At this point, we had not quite realized that we did not have the radiator hoses that we needed. Unfortunately, we pulled a bunch of stuff, what we thought we needed, and ended up with Shadow 600 radiator hoses, which are not the exact same size. There you can see the look on my face as I'm realizing I also do not have the correct ends for the clutch cable for the levers that we chose to use. So, this thing came down to one or two little parts as far as getting it 100% finished. Um, at this point, I had another idea. I was going to try something else for a clutch cable, so I'm still working on it. Matt was digging for radiator hoses across the street, so we weren't completely dead in the water, but we just were not sure what was going to come to pass as far as finding what we needed. And shortly after this, which was about 9:30 in the morning, we realized that we did not have what we needed, and we went ahead and called it. So we had the bike about, I would say, 95% complete. Went ahead and rolled it off the lift, rolled it outside. Everybody wanted to get a chance to sit on it and feel how it felt. And overall, this was an incredible experience. A lot of fun. And I will probably not ever be doing. I'm hoping next week we'll have some time and we'll get everything finished up. I got the new radiator hoses and the end for the clutch cable I needed. So that will be part 4, the conclusion, getting this bike running and riding. So, as always, appreciate you guys spending some time with us. Hope you enjoyed this. Hope you like seeing the bike. And hope to see you next time at Gattis Garage.